Welcome to the Enneagram 2.0 podcast. I'm Beatrice Chestnut.
And I'm Uranio Paes.
And today we are talking about type 1 and more specifically the sexual 1 subtype. And we're talking with our guest, Rachel Peterka. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
Super glad to have you here with us today, Rachel. I always remember your participation on our retreats. To me, you were a star on the retreats with your explanations of your type, but also your growth journey.
Thank you for saying that. Very kind.
Yeah. And I don't think we've had a sexual 1 on before. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So I think this will be really interesting for people because the sexual 1 is the counter type of type 1. And so sometimes I think people don't really understand exactly what the experience of a sexual 1 is like. So this will be, I think, we'll be breaking new ground. Good. Okay, so why don't you start just by telling us a little bit about yourself, Rachel, and maybe a little bit about your background and especially how you came to the Enneagram and how you discovered you were a 1.
Sure. So I am a professional counselor. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I have a practice there. I came to the Enneagram about 10 years ago through a friend of mine. I had always been interested in personality assessments since probably high school, but had never heard of the Enneagram until I was about 30. And a colleague, a counselor, told me about the Enneagram. She had kind of played around with it back when she was in college and young adulthood, and so introduced me to it. And I knew pretty quickly after reading the 9 type descriptions that I was a 1. But interestingly, when I started telling people that I thought I was a 1, they disagreed. They said, "You can't be a 1."
Hate it when that happens.
I know, and um, it felt intriguing because it told me that there was a difference between how people were perceiving me and how I was experiencing myself.
Mm.
And so through your work, B, I learned about the subtypes. And when I read the sexual 1 description, my first thought was, oh no. I felt caught, like someone knew that that I emphasize perfecting others more than myself. And I thought that I had been doing such a good job of hiding that. And the description was just too close, too accurate for me to deny. So that helped explain a little bit about why I think people around me didn't think that I was a 1 because they didn't see some of the stereotypical 1 presentation that you would expect.
Right, exactly. 1 often gets called the perfectionist. And I think one of the things the subtypes help us understand is that there are 3 versions of each of the 9 types, and that those 3 versions can be quite different. And I think it's the self-preservation one that's more of the perfectionist. And when I first started teaching the subtypes, I would have ones coming up to me saying, "Thank you for saying that not all 1s are perfectionists," because the 3 1s are different. And the sexual 1, we often say, is more of a reformer than a perfectionist. It's not like someone who's like trying to control or improve every little detail around them. It's more someone who's, seeing things that are wrong out there, or, trying to fix or correct people, and someone who has more access to anger or aggressive energy or assertive energy.
Absolutely. And my repressed instinct is self-preservation. And
Ah.
so I think that that also played into it just not being very apparent. Like if someone comes into my home, they would think you are not a 1. It's not organized. There is like things are mismatched decoration wise, and it doesn't fit me very well. This especially the self-preservation characteristics.
Yeah, your particular type and whole instinctual sequence is a great one for people to stop stereotyping, because it's not the typical description of a one. But you said that people didn't believe that you were a one before. Why was that? What did they see in you that they thought didn't apply?
I think when I said I'm a perfectionist, they were thinking about those more material environmental presentations, but learning that a sexual one perfects relationships and tries to reform others. I will say my husband was like, "Yep, that's right."
So he knew the truth.
He knew. I think so those closest to me who I had exercised those muscles towards,
Mhm.
they bought it, but I think for those who didn't, who I would go to work with, or who would kind of know me on a more superficial level, or who I really hadn't aimed that perfectionism towards, I
Mhm,
think they would look at my life and see, no, you don't mind getting a B on a paper, or you don't mind, the things that you would expect a perfectionist to really care about and prioritize.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. And do you think there was a factor that people would a little more easily see your irritation or a little bit of anger than they did with other ones that contained even more?
Yes, definitely. Am I have called myself a passionate person. I think a lot of ones would describe themselves as passionate, but
Mhm,
for me, it's more evident just verbally. I can be quite articulate with how I speak about things that I care about. I don't have a problem really expressing anger.
mhm.
So when I feel it, the fuse is very, very quick most of the time. And so that presentation of not being as controlled or as um, presentable, I
Mhm.
Mhm.
think probably played into it as well.
Right, that makes sense because the self-preservation one and the social one are both types that repress anger a lot and try not to show it. Now, of course, it leaks out in different ways, but it's almost like a sense of like anger's not good, you shouldn't show it, you really got to put a lid on it. Whereas the sexual one, and one of the reasons why it's the counter type, is usually someone who says there's nothing wrong with anger and it is a little more free with it, even while sometimes you may try to hold it back in certain circumstances.
I was just thinking about what you were saying, and I think that I do still have mixed feelings about anger.
Yeah.
But I feel less able to contain it. I
Mm.
think as a sexual one, it comes out quicker and more forcefully than maybe the other subtypes.
Yeah, and ones are not eights. So even the sexual one stays with quite a bit of anger in the inside. Like eights, when they say something to the other one, 5 minutes later, they don't even remember what happened. But that's not how it is for a one, including sexual one.
That
Mhm.
is correct.
Mhm.
I think about anger as I express it for a while afterwards, and often feel a lot of guilt and shame for for feeling the anger and for expressing it.
Mhm.
Mm. How would you say is the way that you express anger? Can you give us an example or two?
Yes, I'm smiling because in one of your trainings, there was a list of indirect manifestations of anger, and I recognized myself in a lot of them. So, one of the ways is speaking very precisely,
Mhm.
making sure that I am articulate. I can be sarcastic. Um, I can speak in a way that demonstrates competency, I think, but a lot of the root of that is anger. Um, I often absorb, I call it absorbing because I will I will feel anger, but I won't express it. I will try to control it, often with my head, trying to like talk myself out of that
Mm.
feeling or expression. So I will end up doing things like I'll make noises like, "Ugh," um, or I will move pretty fast. I will at the same time disconnect from my body,
Mm,
trying to not be with the anger,
mm,
but push it down. And then when I just can't do that anymore, then the expression of it is explosive. So
mhm,
it can be very loud, it can be very blaming,
mhm.
very like I am easily offended, and so I can really rip people a new one verbally if if I just cannot contain it anymore.
Mhm, mhm. Can you give some examples about what kinds of things you get angry about? Like, is there a theme to the things that trigger you?
Yeah. I am like the Hulk. I am always angry because nothing goes the way that I think it should. Just even setting up like the background here, I was angry that there was a glare from the window, like, or, so it can be quite small things like that. Um, or it can be bigger things so I'm a parent. I have 3 kiddos, 14, 11, and 9, and I think because I'm a sexual one, when they hurt one another,
Mm,
that gets me so upset
mm,
more than most other things that they could do. But relational wrongs
mm.
just, oh, they get to my heart. Really, they get to my heart and they make me so sad and angry.
Wow. Mm, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there is a learning in what you're saying for everybody listening, which is many times you won't see the anger for once. It will leak out a little, but will look like criticism or irritability, but it won't be always an outer behavior. And it's great that you're saying that anger is always there. It takes a big degree of self observation and courage to own that the passion of our type or the main emotional vice of our type is almost permanently there. And it's a process in the inside. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit, how is anger in the inside? What happens with you in the inside and in your body because of anger?
Mm. Well, I noticed it starting at the bottom and moving up, and my head usually tries to push it down,
Mhm,
which means that I am rationalizing my anger. Um, Something really interesting. I don't know if other ones experience this, but I can know a feeling without actually feeling it.
hmm,
I can be aware of it. And I think growing in body awareness, I've been able to recognize like put words to different emotions. But that doesn't necessarily mean that my heart is connected to the emotion.
mhm,
So if I feel anger, it comes from the bottom, moves up. If I let myself feel it in my heart, it pretty quickly shifts into a different emotion.
Mhm.
hmm,
And then I really know better, like, what is this about? Because if I'm angry all the time, then it can kind of be confusing about what's going on internally. But
Mm,
then if I can identify, okay, I think actually, like with my children, for example, if I'm angry that my daughter is verbally being unkind to my son, then I actually am really sad. And
mm,
if I let myself connect with that emotion in my heart, the anger pretty quickly, I think, goes away.
mm,
It almost dissipates. It's like I don't have that energy force in my body anymore that anger comes with.
Mhm.
I have more of a quiet, peaceful, I'm sitting with whatever that other emotion is.
mm.
Yeah.
Right, and you remind us that it's really important to understand that ones are body types and the way they're body types, and the way it sounds like you feel the anger very much in your body and it's a bodily sensation. Did it make sense when you discovered you were a one that you were a body type, and how did you understand that?
Mm. Yeah, I remember learning that all of the body types dissociate some from their bodies. And so I was confused about it at first. Like, hmm, body type. I'm not sure I understand that. Um, I think because I was just so disconnected. And I think the self preservation repressed plays a role in that too, just being very disconnected from concreteness.
Mhm,
Um, but the more that I learned about it and the more I looked back over my life and thought about even as a child, I thought, oh yeah, I'm a body type. Like as a kid, I was very body forward.
mm,
So I was very physical. I played sports. I didn't have the words that I have now. And so I often expressed myself with my body
mhm.
in different ways when I was younger. Um, and so one of the ways in recent years that I have reconnected with my body is I started working out at an MMA gym, a mixed martial arts gym.
Wow.
And I was so like soul tired at that point in my life. My kids were so small,
Mm,
and I was a counselor, and I just felt like I was so depleted everywhere I looked. So I got a Groupon and I signed up for this MMA gym, and I worked out there for 2.5 years, and it really changed my life
mm.
because I had to be in my body.
Wow.
I had to confront some of the like traumatic things that had kept me from being in my body for
Mhm,
so long. And um, fortunately, the men in particular at this gym were very safe, good men,
mhm.
and so I could really be wrestling with them on the floor and learning these very nuanced, minute movements um, to submit someone.
Wow.
And it was I think I really that was like a big piece of starting to develop a good relationship with my body and embracing the fact that I am a body type.
Mm. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, I've heard so many times someone saying that it's very beneficial to do a contact sport or a martial art in which they can release the anger and show the anger. Like I remember a long time ago, a type 1 person who wasn't a sexual one, but she was a social one, who practiced karate. And she said what that did for her and how important that was. And then back at home, she would practice with her son and how the relationship would get better. So it sounds like that taught you many different things, perhaps not only being in the body, but also pushing anger outside. Or what do you think? Maybe that,
Or
or
maybe or I would say channeling it, right? Because when ones are growing, it's a tricky thing, right? Because on the one hand, um, the anger is both the passion of the type and it's sort of the core emotion of the body types. And so you've sort of got a double dose. And then as a sexual dominant person, sexual dominant people also have more anger. And so you've got sort of a triple dose. and we often say, like, ones will say, well, I can't just get angry all the time. Well, it's more about, especially for sexual ones, it's about having the anger and not feeling shame or anything about it, but learning to channel it in the right ways more consciously. And so it sounds like that MMA experience may have been an experience both of getting in your body in a positive way and of channeling your aggressive energy into something positive, like doing this particular kind of, martial arts.
Yes, I would say you're both right, because there there's something to say for just punch in a bag and it just being a release of like, and I'm not a runner. I really hate running, but when I'm really angry, I will run. That's the only time I can get myself to do it. So I think there is something to say for like a release, like getting it out of my body.
Mhm,
And then I can like breathe more deeply and slowly, but also the channeling of like I need a direction, I need a goal, or I need a place to put it.
mhm,
Um, and this particular gym had a belting system, and so I was able to move up levels, and that was wonderful because it gave me like it scaffolded this like next, okay, I need to be able to do these particular skills for the next round. And so it gave me a focus of like I can channel this energy towards that thing.
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah, and something else that we hear from all body types, not only ones, is what I believe you described very well, like sounds, like to grumble, to groan, So this is something that is typical of body types, but also it's positive because somehow you're putting it outside, right? And
mhm.
putting the energy outside, not only talking about it.
Which might involve the head, like you said. Yeah,
Right. Right. Yes, for sure.
interesting.
So your growth journey started, a while back already, and what we hear that like MMA and other things helped you, but what would you say were key things, like pivotal things that helped you get out of that box of a one and a sexual one?
Yes. Um, well, I started noticing at one point that about two-thirds of my caseload were Enneagram fours.
Mm,
Um, and that sent me a signal that, okay, Rachel, you need to look at that arrow
yeah,
because I was having a hard time
mm,
working with fours. The emotionality and the abstractness, um, the being able to know a feeling without feeling the feeling, whereas fours are perfectly comfortable to sit in their feelings. And so I started learning from these clients actually, and I started being reflective about what the emotions were coming up in me, what they were.
mhm,
And I started recognizing I'm actually really afraid of emotion.
mm,
I'm really afraid of people who happily express their emotions. And I'm really afraid of my own. And that kind of kicked me into this the self-preservation repression category too. So
mm.
then I started noticing, oh my gosh, most of these clients are actually self-preservation force. So wow, my repressed instinct and my arrow that I need to do work on. And so I started working to sit with my emotions and being curious instead of trying to smush them.
Mhm,
I started just actively focusing on my heart space.
Mm.
Um, and and there were so many times where I didn't even know what the emotion was. And this voice inside was, it's okay. You don't have to know. You don't have to know what the emotion is to be able to feel it. So I started sitting with that more and more, um, and noticing that the more angry I felt, the more repressed other emotions were. But the more time I spent in other emotions, the less angry I was.
Mm.
And I don't like being, I mean, there are times when it's, there's something gratifying about being angry, but for the most part, I don't enjoy the feeling.
Mhm.
But I'm growing in enjoying other feelings and being able to stay with them
Mhm.
longer and not having to explain them or
Mhm.
make them go away. Um, the self preservation work that I've been doing has been a little bit more concrete. I bought a lemon tree because I have always disliked plants. I have always had a hard time. They feel needy to me, and like, "Well, do you need me to water you?" And so I bought a lemon tree because I have a emotional connection with a lemon tree. My grandmother in California had a huge lemon tree in her backyard. And when we would go and visit, she always had a big bowl of lemons on her table and said, "You can go out and pick as many as you want." So I thought, okay, well, maybe if I have this connection to my grandmother, so maybe I'll try a lemon tree, which is like one of the more high maintenance plants, actually. Um, but I have been caring for this thing, and it feels like a self-preservation exercise to me. I have to care about the color of its leaves, and I have to make sure it's watered just right. And it feels like something a self-preservation one would be really good at, um,
Mhm.
and something that I have just actively avoided a lot of my life. So, um, another self-preservation exercise that I have been working on, I bought a counseling building for my practice,
Mm.
back in the fall, last fall. So it's about a year. And I had to decorate this place.
Mm.
And it was so stressful for
Mm.
me to try to think of what color I wanted the walls to be and what couch would go with that color. And I just got so in my head about all of it. It felt I wondered if self-preservation ones feel that very often, because for me, it was new territory, very new. I don't put a lot of time or investment or heart into things like decorating. So
Wow.
that was incessant, every
Mhm.
room. It was really hard.
I like these are very creative ideas for working on the self-preservation instinct.
Yeah, I'm also a self-pres repressed, and I resonate with the tree example. It really helped me and helps me. The tree that I planted in my house 3.5 years ago, among other things. And I think we are hearing a little bit about the arrow to four, and we all have two arrows. That's the second arrow for ones, and there is the first arrow, which is the arrow to seven. We also heard about the self-press instinct, which for you is the last one or repressed. But what about the arrow to seven? Because we sometimes say that it works as a support or a jump board to go to the second arrow, the arrow to four. It's almost like a prerequisite at times. And that means usually that ones allow themselves to have more fun or relaxation. How did you work on that?
Mm, uh, that's a good question. I haven't thought about the seven arrow in a little bit. I think saying yes more than saying no. Like a dear friend of mine who is a 7, um, he's so optimistic and happy to say yes to anything that sounds fun or interesting. And so I've noticed my tendency to say no very quickly and then to chew on it and chew on it and chew it and then make a commitment that feels really heavy and finite
Mhm.
or heavy and like final. So instead, I've tried to be less heavy about committing to things, which sets me up for failing more. But
Mhm.
it also is, there's a freedom that I've found in saying no or in saying yes and then in like messing up
Mhm.
and it not going well and then just being like, oh, well, and moving on. I think sevens are really good at that. They
Mhm.
can just kind of pivot and try something new.
Mhm.
So I think saying yes more has been definitely something I've been working on. I don't know if other ones resonate with this, but I have a really hard time with platitudes or optimism. I have a hard time like seeing the silver, like when people like tell me a silver lining about something, there's something in me that's just like, oh, don't do that. Um, so I have tried to make myself say
Mm,
silver linings to things.
wow.
That has been really difficult because I kind of hate myself when I'm doing it. But I also feel like, no, but there's got to be some truth in that. There's got
Mhm.
to be something, a nugget in there that's real and good. So
Mhm.
um, if something hard happens, then I don't dismiss the person's pain, but I try to like come up with something that is positive,
Mhm.
and that's really hard for me to do. But
Mhm. Mhm. Which is a little bit four-ish, so it sounds like there might be more of the good four movement in there than you originally identified with. Interesting.
Yeah, and for the ones listening, we always try to say that it's a good idea most of the time to balance the energies of the two arrows, meaning that if you have lots of four, then you would look at doing a bit more of seven, or vice versa. And yeah, so what happens with you when you think of having more fun? What goes on in the inside when you think of that, or when I say this?
mm, um, now I think I feel more like, ooh, what do you mean? What do you want to do? Um, but I definitely still feel a tension inside. I mean, one of the hallmarks of one persona is this responsibility. And when people have fun and I don't, that's where a lot of that resentment comes from. And that, right, the fixation of why do I have to do all of this work? Why do I have to be responsible? Why do I have to be in charge of taking care of X, Y, or Z when all these others get to play and have fun? Um, and there is something scary about play too, because it feels so uncontrolled and unstructured. Um, so I think some of that comes up for me as well. Just really letting go and it not being, there not being a right way to do something,
Mhm.
but just like coloring with my kids and making myself color outside of the lines, like just or playing, doing imaginative things that don't have rules. I think that's another one.
Mhm.
Um, but I do experience like a suspicion at times of fun and play.
Mhm. So it sounds like it's still a challenge.
Yeah, it is at times. Having kids is really helpful
Mhm.
because if I can watch them and learn from them and imitate them, that is really helpful.
Yeah.
because they just are natural at that, right? They just play.
Mm.
Yeah. Many times we hear from ones that having kids is the best remedy for the oneness. Although I think that there is one thing better than that, which is to have grandkids. You're too young for that, but with grandkids, ones allow themselves even more to have fun and everything else. Yeah,
I believe that because still, as a parent, there's still that responsibility. Like, I'm responsible for how these kids turn out. Whew,
yeah,
Mm.
heavy as I even say it, but that's what I carry a lot.
Mhm.
right. Um,
Mhm.
so for the ones who are listening to us right now, what would be one or two hints, suggestions for them on how to start or enhance that growth paths?
Mm, hmm. I think that I would want ones to hear me say that you try so hard to be good, and you are just by showing up. Um, so all of that striving is coming from a heart place, a desire to be seen and known and valued and told, good job, not just in a like performance way, but in a like, this is coming from you. And you don't have to try so hard.
Mm. So important and so beautiful. Yeah. And I wonder if you could also share a hint for people who relate with ones in their lives.
Mm, well, I would say knowing how hard ones can be, especially sexual ones, on others, it is really a reflection of how hard they are on themselves. I think it can be really easy to be put off or hurt or um, definitely feel criticized by ones, and I I think that ones really care about how other people feel. And when we get caught in our perfectionism and in our angry criticism, things aren't the way that I think they should be, we lose sight of the person in front of us and their goodness
Mm.
and their value. We just get caught in our own how we think it should be. So I would say um, knowing that ones are just as hard, if not harder, on themselves than they are on everything else can maybe create some compassion. Um, but also, like, I think a gentle reminder, like, one of the ways that my husband loves me the best is he will say some version of, you're not wrong, but you're lacking some grace or
Mm.
some kindness, or so you're lacking a perspective here outside of what is right or wrong in your view.
Mm.
There's a person here that is being affected by you and how you're trying to um, help them or change them. Or so I think if I'll speak for myself, if I'm told that someone knows I'm not trying to hurt them, or I'm not trying to I'm not calling them bad.
Mhm.
Um, if they know that my personality is like presenting that way, but that's not really my heart for that person,
Mhm.
and they can kind of talk me through that, that's really, really helpful. It shifts my perspective.
Mm.
and helps me remember that I am not the end all be all of what is good and right. Um,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. I
Beautiful.
remember a type 1 student saying something that her husband used to say to her that really helped her. He would say, I would like you to treat my wife better.
yes, about herself, you mean?
Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
right. Yes. I mean, that if I let out the self contempt that can come and my husband or someone else sees it, it's, um, I think him saying something like that, or even him saying, I just don't see you that way. Like,
Mm.
I think what you did isn't great, but it's not as bad as you are, punishing yourself for.
Mhm. Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like seeing the goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it not being so black and white. Like, if I do something bad, that means I'm bad,
Mhm.
versus, like, I can still have a lot of goodness inside of me
Yeah.
and do something wrong.
Right, and often, like you're saying, the striving, the trying to be good, which puts a lot of stress on you, it is coming from extremely good intentions, and then we can all get lost in the ways we try to express or the ways we're trying to do what we're trying to do. But I think it's always important. It's like ones have such good intentions, like the whole reason you're trying so hard or maybe getting angry about something that's happening out there is because you want things to be good, and you want to see the good in others, and you want to have that expressed around you and through you.
Yes, I'm supervising a one right now, and we were talking through a client that he was helping, and it made me think ones do see the goodness in people, and we have a lot of hope for people.
Mhm.
And all of those efforts and striving is to like pull the goodness out, like to help people be the best version of themselves that they can be, because we believe that they can. We
Mm.
believe they have that in them. But the delivery and how is not always, it doesn't achieve that or communicate that. But that, yeah, you're right. That's the heart of it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
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 And I think you talk about acceptance of self and others, and this is so important for once, even more, I think, than any self control, right? Which is not really the path of growth for once. Yeah.
Right. It does not lead to self-acceptance.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Rachel, is there anything at all that we didn't talk about that you would like people to know about once?
Anything that's particularly helped you that might be interesting for ones to learn about?
Mm, I think you guys are dead on about the arrows. Like, so I think if a one is having a hard day and they can just try to find something to do that's kind of fun or enjoyable, it doesn't have to be like a huge, long exercise that you're committing to. It can just simply be like a silly little, like you can just, if you can let it down a little bit on purpose. Yeah, I think you're right. That is the road. Like having fun, letting it go. I maybe the last thing is the serenity.
Yeah.
That feeling of like all is as it should be.
Right. The serenity is the virtue of one, which opposes the passion of anger. And it's acceptance of what is.
Yes. And even I would say a belief that it is good the
Mm,
way that it is
yeah,
without needing to be changed.
yeah.
Um, that being able to accept, and for me, I'm a Christian, and so I go to, if God ordained this moment, then there is validity and goodness in it, however bad or wrong or what I can come up with that should be different or changed.
Yeah.
I can sit in the flow of, no, this is allowed to happen. This is happening. I'm not in charge of it.
Mhm.
And I just get to like be in it.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
And that can bring quite a bit of peace.
Yes, yes. I'm a 2, but I have a lot of 1 in me, having grown up with a father who's a 1 and a brother who's a 1, and he's my only sibling. And Uranio can attest to the fact that I'm very one-ish. And one of the things that's helped me lately is seeing everything that's happening that to me seems wrong, or you know, like a challenge that's too much, or why is this happening? If I can see it as a learning opportunity, it's like, okay, this is happening for a reason. And if I can see there's a reason this is happening, like you say, I'm not in charge, I didn't make this happen, but what if I can see, and again, the learning opportunity is a little bit of a way of seeing the good in it, even though it doesn't feel good in the moment, and what if there's something that's just supposed to be this way, that's way above my pay grade, but I can just see it as valuable or important or a lesson to be learned that will bring me or others to a better place in a way that may be mysterious in the moment. I think that can be really helpful.
Yes, for sure. And I think as a one, I've pushed against this in the past because I've felt like it was calling something bad good. And
Yes.
I can't do that. That just the tension of that, I cannot do.
Right, right.
Um, but it's almost like transcending that black and white, and being able to say, I, like you said, this is maybe above my pay grade. So why, as
Yeah,
I sit and see, this is my perspective, but I'm willing to acknowledge there could be a reality that's beyond what I'm understanding right now.
right.
And that actually can feel nice to sit there.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And I want to highlight what you said about your emotions. As a body type, feeling the body sensation first, and especially with being a sexual one, feeling the anger first, but then recognizing you're feeling it more in your body. And what if you go to your heart? Because when we repress one emotion, we often repress others. And, you know, part of what happens with ones is going against their impulses and emotions, to exert that control, to be responsible or to be correct or right or whatever it might be. And so I just want to circle back to what you said about getting more in touch with your emotions, and like really going there. So, well, what else am I feeling? And the way you said you would be feeling sadness, let's say, if your kids are fighting, and how that unlocks some of the sort of putting a lid on it or trying to control what's happening. And it's almost like you're surrendering a little bit to an emotion that's important, that's bringing information or wisdom about how you're experiencing something.
Mhm. Absolutely. And not just negative emotions, but positive ones too,
Mhm.
because I think that tamping down of the negative ones because of my fear of feeling them, I
Mhm.
also was not experiencing positive things very strongly.
Right.
If I felt anything positive, it was mild. But the more I've opened up the experience of sadness and shame and fear, the more I've been able to feel things like joy,
Right.
and contentment and happiness, excite, just all the ones, maybe that's more the seven
Mm.
arrow too, just being able to feel some of the goodness of those emotions too.
Right. And I think it's also what happens when ones grow. I think sometimes we suggest that ones really need to relax more, have more fun, like go for pleasure and enjoyment, because there is this such a strong sense of responsibility of doing the right thing or seeing what's not okay and trying to make it better, which can leave you in a place of, you know, more difficult emotions. And so I've noticed that when ones really grow, you really see they become lighter, funnier, fun to be around. You see their humor come out, and it's really, really lovely. Like there's almost no one funnier than a evolved one, you know. So I think I like the way you're saying, if I can tolerate the difficult emotions and almost go there more with more intention, I can also allow and evoke and experience the higher, lighter, happier emotions. Beautiful. Any last comments or questions, Uranio, before we stop?
No, just a big, big thank you, Rachel. Yeah, it was really enlightening, and I'm pretty sure that our listeners learned and enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing all you shared with us. Really appreciate you. Okay, that does it for another episode of the Enneagram 2.0 podcast. We hope you'll join us again next time, where we talk about all things